One of the things that was talked about during the Harris-Trump debate was this notion of women having late-term abortions right up to possibly the birth of the child, or post certainly the point where the child would be viable outside the womb. This is a far more nuanced debate than the media give credit for.
The Democrat Party is really the one that has the problem. I think they're radical on abortion because they're allowing abortion in the 9th month. They're allowing the death of a baby after the baby is born, based on the governor of Virginia. Based on the governor of Virginia, they're allowing the death of the baby after it's born. They're allowing abortions in the 8th and 9th month.
Well, Democrats have denied.
I think they're right. And I think the Republican Party is actually much less. I think I've made them much less radical, perhaps. But the Republican Party, what we're doing is bringing it back to the states where everybody wanted it. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody wanted abortion brought back. They didn't want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it. Everybody wanted it back.
But the majority of Americans oppose Roe v. Wade being overturned.
They don't know about this. Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do also.
And there's been so much polling in the US on this, and a clear majority, even those who are pro-choice in the first trimester, are against abortion for the 2nd and certainly the 3rd trimester. There is so much information and data on that, and it's never really discussed. It's you're either for or against, and there's nothing in between.
Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest.
Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions. Very important.
Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before. He said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, but her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me.
There is no state in this country where a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
Wow. Yes, so I wanted to call out a lie that isn't just from Kamala, but it's from Lindsay Davis, one of the moderators who was working alongside Kamala.
Running mate. She was really the running mate.
You know, her support animal who was there. You know, it's one of these things that I think is just so disgusting. When it comes to the abortion issue, I want people to understand, and I say this as a pro-lifer, there have been some pro-lifers who've been disappointed in things that Donald Trump has said during this cycle, but I think that what you saw last night was a reminder of how radical this ticket is from the Democrats. Truly the most radical pro-abortion ticket we've ever seen in the history of politics. And the fact that Lindsay Davis would come to Kamala's support to make the claim that no one is having these late-term abortions, it's not actually happening.
In Minnesota.
You know, and Donald Trump, to his credit, was saying, you know, wait, 7th, 8th, 9th month.
But even lefty outlet The Atlantic has interviewed a doctor who performs exactly that sort of procedure, a man called Warren Hearn, who insists a baby is a fetus until it is born alive, who calls pro-life activists fascists and performs abortions for women whose pregnancies are over 32 weeks. That's around 1 month before the pregnancy is considered full term and weeks after a fetus is considered viable. He operates in Colorado, where there are no gestational limits on abortion. And Alex, Colorado is hardly the only state with no gestational limits. Another issue that wasn't picked up by the ABC moderators when we know abortion is such a huge issue in this election.
Well, abortion's a very huge issue, and there's a reason why they have to lie about this, because even people that are pro-choice believe there should be a term limit of when a person can have an abortion. Most people meet in the middle that
Yes.
should be, done within the first trimester, some people the second trimester, but about everybody would agree that the third trimester is way too far to have an abortion. So they have to lie and say that this isn't happening when we have the governor of Virginia, Governor Northam, saying that this does happen and that they will keep the baby comfortable while the parent decides whether or not to euthanize a baby. So this is not a right-wing conspiracy. This is something that's real and that even people that are pro-choice are against. So that's why they have to lie.
Do you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before.
There would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages.
In fact, in Minnesota, the state that obviously Tim Walz governs, when he became governor, he reversed a policy that was actually passed and signed into law under a Democrat governor, the Born Alive Infant Protection Act, that was designed to make hospitals care for infants who survived the abortion process, to give them every consideration in terms of trying to help them survive. He reversed that completely. And then after he did that, he also reversed the reporting requirements that because frankly, he was being embarrassed by the fact that there were 5 infants who actually went through this process, were born alive. It is absolutely disgusting. It is vile. And it is a reminder of how radical this Democratic ticket is, and that the media, including ABC News, will run to their defense and sell lies to the American people.
Because why, Ben? They do not want the American people to know this is happening.
They don't want you to know this is happening. They want to pretend it isn't.
I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came to your
Well, I won't
desk?
have to because, again, 2 things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. Well, wonderful. Let's go to Congress. Do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.